And it's kind of what we were just talking about. This schedule will be a little bit condensed as we're not having to do such a large PI. We're not talking about a ton, hundreds of parts. We're talking about a small scope of SKUs. So what we would plan to do is starting the week before, right now, we are cleaning up work orders as well as parts that have been ordered to location. So that'll be your inventory teams. They should be reaching out to you and saying, hey, we've got this work order still open, and we'd like to push it through, or we've got these orders open that haven't been received in or need to be canceled. So they're doing that currently. As we get into that Sunday timeframe, everything needs to be frozen. And so realistically, if we're going to be doing the physical inventory on Tuesday, we'd still like that Sunday to be the frozen period. So in the system, not being in Service Max at all, making sure we're not submitting any work orders. All work orders have to be submitted by Sunday at 7 o'clock. All shipments have to be received in by 7 o'clock on Sunday as well. And then we just do a quick check that Sunday, make sure everything looks good. Monday is really just organize your inventory, or if you're working on a different business, that's perfectly fine as well. We're going to do our last review and just make sure everything gets pushed through properly. And then we're just making sure we're set up to do the physical inventory. By the end of the day on Monday, we do like to make sure we have all inventory sheets sent to you. We'll go over the inventory sheet here in a second. But they'll all be sent to your manager group that will disperse to the techs. And then what we expect is that by the end of the day, Tuesday, as early as you can get it done, get it back to that manager group where they'll bring them to us. We'll be making sure to stay in contact with that manager group if we're getting to the end of the day and we're missing some. So we'll stay connected there. On Tuesday, we'll probably start some of our reconciliation as some of those PIs start coming in, and also on Wednesday. So what we do is take your inventory in, what you said you counted, we put it against what the system says you have, any open work orders that didn't get closed on time, and kind of do that math to basically say this is what you have left over. So then we do the systematic transactions. We make sure everything looks good there. And then once we're done, we send you a note back and say you're officially unfrozen. The only things we will reach out on is if something looks really funky. So for instance, if you, and we'll once again show the inventory sheets here shortly, but if you're trying to add inventory in and say you give us a batch that is not the correct number of, letters or numbers, we'll send that back to you and say, hey, we're going to need this recounted. We know that the inventory is going to be a little bit messy, but if we're taking a huge loss, we really need to understand the reason why. So we're really looking for, we might need to reach out and we'll put those parameters in place that if it's larger than X amount, we'll reach back out and say, hey, can you do a really quick check? This looks a little funky to us. So those would be the only things that get in the way of us not unfreezing on time. We should realistically get into the unfreezing time frame on Wednesday, maybe early Thursday, based off of how many people we have a week. Feeling pretty confident we'll be able to get that in that time frame. Any questions so far with the calendar?
No, just have a quick update. So we currently have four open jobs. All of them are waiting on back ordered parts. So at this point, everything that we've serviced has been entered and invoiced out, except for those
Okay,
four jobs.
that's okay. And those, are there parts that have been submitted and actually added to, like on that job already, but you're just waiting on parts, on different parts, or have you not done any work at all yet?
I don't believe we've done any work at all. I believe they're all PMs.
Okay.
I'm kind of staring at them now, but they appear to be all PMs where we don't have specific parts to do the PM, so we wouldn't go on site to do them without it.
Perfect. Okay. Yep. So then from an inventory standpoint on our side, that means you should have all inventory physically in location. We wouldn't add those work orders in because they're not at a specific stance in the system to say that you've actually added parts and you've pushed them through. So that's perfectly fine. Those ones can stay open because they're not at a specific like readiness in the system for us to then add on. Status, that's what the word I was looking for, status in the system.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that
No,
note.
no, that's definitely a good note. Any other questions? Great. I will throw us into the worksheet template. So this is an example of actually a different tech. This is not, these should not be part numbers that anybody find and understand. So no worries if you're looking at here and being like, I don't know any of those parts. This is just an example. But what we do to pull the inventory. So this will be the inventory sheet that we send you. It's going to look exactly like this. It's going to have your storage location, and each one of the techs have a storage location number. That's how we really understand who they are systematically. It's not by name. So you'll see your storage location number. And then the next things you'll see are material description. And then if it has a batch number or if it has a serial number, it would have that information there. And then you'll basically put all of your counts in this F column and any notes that you have. These sheets will be completely locked out, so you won't be able to mess around in here or touch anything in here. I can currently, it's not locked, but this will all not allow you to make any changes. You'll only be able to make changes in the PI count and notes, and that's basically because we're trying to say, this is what we show you have systematically. So it kind of gives you a one up. This is just the systematic stuff. Tell us if you have it or if you don't have it. So, you know, in this instance, you might say, hey, I've got 5 of these, I've got 0, so on and so forth, and you work your way down. For serial numbers, if you do have any serial numbers in your system, we really don't want anybody to say, you know, you're either saying 0 or you're saying 1. There can only be 1 serial number per part. So if we get into a situation where we say we've got 15 of them, you might have 15 total of these REMB micro drills, but you only have 1 of this serial number. So there should be 15 micro drills on this sheet. So that's kind of what it should look like when it comes to batch and serial. Now, if you have something that you don't show having systematically, that's going to happen. There's an entire add page. So this is the exact reason why everything is basically locked in this sheet and why you can't type in here and try to add things, because we want to make sure that we note this is what we show you having systematically. So we're going to definitely have to make changes to anything we show you having systematically. Anything you want to add is also something we're going to have to make a change on. So this sheet looks the exact same. It's set up the same way. It does not have description. And what we ask is that a lot of team members know their parts by description. I know that that's really difficult. If we can, best as we can, put the material part number and then the description in here, that'd be super great. What you will see on the sheets and what I normally add as we're in physical inventory is I will add part number and description off to the side on the add column so that it can make it easy for them to copy and paste. So that will be added in here once we get into physical inventory time. But then you would put your serial number. If it's a serialized part, you'd put your batch, if it's a batch part, and then you would put your count. Once again, serial numbers, we definitely don't want to see anything that says 15. That would cause us to need to come back to you and say, do you have 15 of this part? Or did you make a mistake and you only have 1 of these serial numbers? So those are the things that we really have to circle back on. I want to go over just one more time. I already kind of said it, but just overall how we put these sheets together are systematically. So that might mean you have a work order that's open and you've consumed it. Don't want that to be something that causes everybody to panic that it's on my systematic sheet, but it's not. I don't actually physically have it anymore. That's what we're looking to fix. We're looking to fix do you still have this, and it's on a work order? That's a problem that we want to fix. So when we pull this together, it's really just all encompassing what inventory could you have. That doesn't mean we're taking huge losses in your area. So how the system realistically works is that SAP, which is where we pull all of our inventory, it's where our finances sit, is a display of Service Max plus work orders. So once again, this is going to be the biggest, the most encompassing of part numbers, and you might have put parts on a different work order consuming that specific batch or that specific serial. Not a lot of notes that we get is, well, I use that on a work order. That's why it's not here anymore. Definitely. We should see that in the work orders as we add the work orders in. So that shouldn't be a reason to fret. It's just an all-encompassing view to make sure that we got everything checked. On the flip side, there will be things missing. So it's very easy to basically start your physical inventory and say, all right, here's this part number. Let me go find that part number. Okay, I've got 5 of them, and work your way down. We really encourage team members to not do that. They should do an overall physical inventory. Start from left to right, up to down, make sure that they get everything, because what we've seen from a lot of our techs is they went through just what they show systematically, and then down the line realized that they actually had a bunch of stuff they should have added and never did that. And so when they go to try to consume it on a work order, it creates a deficit, and they say, well, yeah, it wasn't on my inventory list. Yeah, you had to add it to your inventory list for us to be able to consume it. So really want to bring home that you make sure you're just doing a blind count. This is just an easy way to come at it. So the best way to do it is find the physical part, find it on your sheet, then put your quantities in and work your way like that. Once you get to the end, anything that's not showing that you touched it or it's showing as gray, you put zeros in for that, and then you're all set. Any questions on how the sheet works? Awesome. I'm going to go back just really quick to this calendar to make sure that everybody sees it one last time. We will send an email out on that. Some tips and tricks to physical inventory is the last piece I always do in a training. Like I just said, going from left to right, up, down, however you want to do it, doing as blind as possible is a huge tip and trick there. Making sure you get your inventory organized before you start. So if you're coming into a mess, it definitely makes the day go by and very painful. And then I think the last tip and trick that I always note is reaching out, letting us know, and keeping notes on your cycle count sheets make a big difference. So when we come back, or if we had a question on something, you already answer it in there. So if you see something that looks a little funky, or the batch looks wrong or anything like that, let us know that information in your notes column, because that might stop us from having to pause on your inventory, come back to your manager, then go to the tech, then come back to your manager, then come back to us with some very simple answers. So making sure serialized, always one piece, making sure batches look right, making sure that they're the correct number or letters. So like in this instance, obviously there's a specific amount of numeral letters that go into the batch. So if you sent something in that was shorter, that would definitely not make sense for these micro drills. So just those kind of things make a big difference and make the physical inventory go very smooth. Any questions overall on the training or anything that you feel like needs to go over again? Awesome. I will stop recording.